My father threw me out. I should have known this would happen. From the moment I laid eyes on her, my fate had already been decided. My father had spent his life building a legacy, one I was meant to inherit. But in his eyes I had made an unforgivable mistake. I had fallen in love with the wrong woman, and for that, he cast me out. The moment everything changed. I still remember the way he looked at me when I told him. Disappointment, rage, a silence so heavy it crushed the air between us. "You have disgraced this family," he said, his voice colder than I had ever heard it. "You are no longer my son." I had known he wouldn't approve, but I never thought he would erase me, never thought he would banish me from the only life I had ever known. The woman who ruined me, or saved me. She wasn't of noble blood. She wasn't the woman my father had chosen for me. She was fire and rebellion. She was everything I had never been allowed to have. And she loved me in a way that made me question everything. For the first time in my life, I had chosen for myself. And that choice had cost me everything. A world without my name. I left the house that day, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No title, no fortune, no future. But as I walked away from the gates that had once kept me safe, I realized something. I wasn't afraid, because even though my father had thrown me out, she was still waiting for me. And maybe, just maybe, losing everything was the only way I could truly live. The streets felt different beneath my feet. I had walked them 1,000 times before, but never like this. Never as a man without a home, without a name, without the weight of my father's expectations pressing down on me. For the first time, I was free. But at what cost? No longer a son, but still a man. I had spent my entire life following orders, speaking only when spoken to, obeying the rules of a world I had never chosen. But all it had taken was her. One woman, one love, one decision. And I had lost everything, or had I? Because the moment my father told me to leave, I realized something. Everything I had before had been his money, his power, his control. Now I had nothing but my own choices, and I would not regret the one that led me to her. Finding her again. She didn't know what had happened yet, didn't know that loving her had cost me my family, my inheritance, my future. But I knew one thing. I had to see her, had to tell her, had to make her understand that no matter what I had lost, she was worth it. The thought gave me strength as I made my way through the winding streets, past people who no longer saw me as anything special. I was no longer the heir to my father's empire. I was just a man in love, and now I had to find the woman who had changed everything. Because if I had lost my past for her, I would build my future with her, no matter what it took. The city stretched before me, unfamiliar in ways I had never noticed before, without my title, without my father's name to shield me. I was just another man wandering its streets. But I wasn't lost. I knew exactly where I needed to go. I had to find her, the woman who had changed my life, the woman who had cost me my life, as I knew it. What would she say? Would she be waiting for me, or had she expected this outcome all along? Maybe she had known that the moment I chose her, my father would never forgive me. Would she blame herself? Would she feel guilty? Or worse, would she feel nothing at all? The thought made my chest tighten, but I pushed forward. I had made my choice, and I wouldn't take it back. A door between us. At last I reached a small home tucked away from the grandeur I once knew. Her home, a world apart from the one I had come from, yet the only place I wanted to be. I lifted my hand to knock, hesitated for only a second, then let my knuckles rap against the wooden door. The weight felt endless. Then the creak of hinges, the soft glow of candlelight spilling onto the street. And finally, her, standing there, staring at me, her eyes filled with surprise, with worry, with something I couldn't yet name. She opened her mouth to speak, but I beat her to it. He threw me out. The words came easier than I thought they would. Her breath caught. I saw the way she reached for me before she even realized she had moved. And in that instant, I knew whatever happened next, I wasn't facing it alone. She didn't speak right away. For a moment, we just stood there, the flickering light from inside casting soft shadows between us. I could see the questions in her eyes, the fear, the guilt, but I didn't want her to carry that weight. Not when I had made my decision, long before my father ever uttered those words. "Come inside," she finally whispered. Stepping aside, I did. And with that one step, I left behind the last piece of the life I once knew. A world that was now mine. Her home was nothing like the palace. No marble floors, no towering ceilings, no servants waiting for a command, but it was warm. It smelled of spice and old books, of the kind of life that felt real. And yet, I could feel the unspoken tension between us. She stood just a few feet away, arms wrapped around herself, as if bracing for whatever came next. "Tell me everything," she said, voice steady but soft. So I did. The price of my love. I told her about my father's anger, about the way he looked at me as if I was already a stranger, about the moment I realized I was no longer his son, just a mistake he had cast out of his world. And when I was done, she exhaled slowly, as if she had been holding her breath the entire time. "I never wanted this for you," she murmured. Her voice held sorrow, but also something else, a kind of quiet strength. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "I did," I admitted, "because for the first time, I had chosen something for myself, and I would not regret it." No turning back. She reached for my hand, fingers hesitant at first, then firm. "What now?" she asked. I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But as I looked into her eyes, I knew one thing. I wasn't alone in this, and that meant everything. Her fingers tightened around mine, warm, steady, real. Everything else had been ripped away from me, but she was still here. And that was enough. For now, the weight of what we had done. She led me to sit, the candlelight flickering between us, shadows dancing against the walls. The silence felt heavier than it ever had before. Not because we had nothing to say, but because there was too much. Finally, she spoke. "Are you sure about this?" I looked at her then, really looked at her. The woman who had cost me my name, my home, my father's love. And yet she was also the woman who had given me something far greater. "Myself, yes," I said without hesitation. Because this wasn't just about love, this was about freedom. No safe place left. But love alone wouldn't save us. I had no title to protect me, no wealth to fall back on, no idea what my father would do next. "He won't just let this go," she said, reading my thoughts as if they were her own. She was right. My father wasn't the kind of man who accepted betrayal, and to him that's exactly what I had done. I had defied him, humiliated him, destroyed the future he had planned for me, and I knew without a doubt he wasn't finished with me yet. A choice we had to make. "Then we have to leave," I said, the words tasting like something final. Her brows knit together, hesitation flickering across her face. Go where? That I didn't know. But staying wasn't an option, not when I had become an outcast in the city that once bowed to me. Not when my father's reach could still pull me back into his grasp, or worse. I exhaled slowly, knowing this was the moment everything changed. "Wherever we go," I told her, "we go together." She didn't answer with words. She didn't have to. The way she laced her fingers with mine was answer enough. We would leave before dawn, and whatever awaited us beyond this place, we would face it side by side. The weight of the night pressed down on us, thick with the unspoken truth. There was no turning back. I wasn't just a son cast aside. I was a man, without a home, without protection, without a future that had once been written for me. And now, we had one choice: to run before my father made sure I never had another chance. The last few hours, she packed in silence, her movements quick but controlled. I watched her, knowing she had lived like this before, prepared to leave at a moment's notice, always one step ahead of the world that wanted to keep her in her place. But now, it wasn't just her life on the line, it was ours. "We can't take much," she murmured, slipping a dagger into her belt. I nodded, the reality sinking in deeper with every second. I had lived in excess my whole life. Gold-plated halls, endless feasts, servants at my beck and call. And now, my survival depended on how little I could carry, how well I could disappear. A city that wasn't safe anymore. By the time we stepped outside, the streets were quiet, the kind of quiet that felt unnatural. I pulled my hood lower, my heart pounding. Somewhere in the dark, my father's men were looking for me. I could feel it. The palace wouldn't let me go so easily, and if they found us before we left the city, this would be the end. A risk worth taking. She reached for my hand, her grip strong, unshaken. "Are you ready?" she whispered. I wasn't. How could I be? I had no idea what waited for us beyond these walls. But maybe that was enough. "Let's go," I said, forcing myself to move. And as we slipped into the shadows, I realized something. My father had thrown me out, but he hadn't destroyed me. I was still here, and for the first time, I would decide what happened next.